I come from the Open University, and today I'm gonna talk about method and tool to support the analysis of interaction of learners on online environment, in particular in peer-to-peer learning courses. So first of all, I have to thank the AllNet project funded by the Hewlett and Vlora Foundation from the US, which is the project within which we have developed both the technologies and the reflection that I will be talking about today. So open education. Open education has broken the boundary of where actually learning happens. And especially in new generation, more and more learners have different ways to learn more informally, and they learn in different virtual environment on the web. And this, of course, also opened the challenges for us, researchers, trying to understand how we can actually do sound research on the interaction that learners have online. So, in other words, the things we are interested in is trying to understand how we do ethnographic studies, different kind of qualitative data analysis, but on materials, on data that are actually online. So trying to understand actually how learners are improving and evolving their learning process in this virtual environment in which the learning is also often mediated by different technologies. So, this virtual ethnography ethnographic study and behavioral experimentation in general are two different methodologies that can be applied, and they require different kind of qualitative data analysis that so far can be supported by different computers supported qualitative data analysis tools, like for example ATLAS-T, InVivo, Transana, which actually have some restriction and present specific issues when the data that is analyzed is data extracted from the web. In particular, when you are analyzing data that come from a public website, there are different kind of ethical and legal issues of what kind of data can you have actually save and extract. How can you code it? What are actually the constraints I have on manipulating, analyzing, and representing and presenting this data analysis? And then there are more practical issues related on how I actually extracted the data I want to analyze from web pages, and how I convert this data into forms that is analyzable by the specific qualitative data analysis tools I want to use. And more importantly, all these technologies, since they ask the data in order to be analyzed, to be extracted from the web, what they do is decontextualizing the data that you are analyzing from the very relevant context of the data itself, which is related to how the user, the data is presented, how all the different metadata that the website presents, and that could be very important hints for the analyst in order to understand and interpret the data itself. And all this information is lost as soon as we extract clips of data from the context. And then also this makes the data quickly obsolescent, because of course if we are analyzing learners' interaction on a particular website, in the moment in which we extract the data, we stop monitoring what is happening on the website. So all new data that will come out there will be lost, and then all our study and interpretation will be very fastly obsolescent. So in order to cope with these issues, we really understood that we now need computer-assisted qualitative data analysis tools that actually are designed for dealing with web data. So we are presenting Cohere, which is a web tool developed in the AllNet project, and in this specific paper we have used as qualitative data analysis tools in order to analyze how learners interact in a peer-to-peer university course. And we just showcase and give a proof of concept of how Cohere can be used to make behavioral observation on online learning. So what does Cohere? First of all, it provides the two main features, function of any qualitative data analysis tools, which are coding and memoing. So translated to the language of the web, Cohere allow to code clips of data, which can be, in our case, user-generated data in form of text, images, and then it allows to make a clip of these data and then associate it a code by giving him a tag. So he's providing coding as a tagging of online data. And then he's providing memoing, so it gives the analyst the possibility to then associate a comment, a note, which is about the insights of the analyst while he's going through the analysis. How? By making a web, and we will show also collaborative web annotation of this clip of information. So how Cohere does this? So Cohere has a Firefox sidebar which allow the analyst to show all the codes and annotation he creates on a specific website on the sidebar of his browsers. So you can see here in the image, in the background, user can highlight the clip of text that they want to analyze and then decide to code it by annotating, by creating a note on it. So then in the summary and description fields, he can write his reflection, while into the tags fields, he can actually add the codes that he wants to add to his analysis. As you can see here, any notes, any comments is associated then to this clip of text you have created, and it remained anchored to the context in which the analysis has been done. The second main function of qualitative data analysis is memoing. Theory says that memoing is a very important procedure for the analyst. In fact, he allows him to take notes on the hypothesis that he makes on possible patterns or connection between the categories that are emerging while he's doing his analysis online. And he also gives the possibility then to refer and try to take notes and code what relationship exists between these categories. So Cohere has a specific way to support the ability to take in memos and also to code the connections between memos, which are particularly important because at the moment in which the analyst is trying to develop patterns of understanding within his data analysis. So how users can connect memos? This is just a screenshot of the interface to connect the different memos. On the right side, you see one square box in which the memo has been written. If you scroll down and open the details, you will see also the clip of text to which on the website to which this is referred. And then you can browse which other memo you want to connect this memo to by exploring your memo, or by exploring your bookmarks, or by simply making a keyword search on your annotations. And then you can connect the two memos and code this connection by associating a further category to this connection itself. So I want to say in example that these two nodes are relevant because the second one is contradicting what the first is saying, or if I'm interested in studying contradictions, or if I am interested to study and observe any other dimension into the online data by tagging the connection between demos, so by coding the connection between memo, I give the analysis a further way to structure and therefore explore his data afterward. So We have done a use case observing virtual users in a peer-to-peer university course. Yoda has already described perfectly peer-to-peer university, so I will just describe what we did. So we had two specific lenses. We wanted to observe and understand something more about participation and affective feedback. So we wanted to understand what and how participants share online resources, how they share their reflection, and we wanted also to try to understand how they do so, if they do so through affective feedbacks in which they socialize, and how this happens in the learning environment. So by looking at this, we then analyzed, in particular, focused our analysis into a group forum discussion in which one specific group in this peer-to-peer university course that was about copyright for educators, they were discussing problems and topics and everything that was occurring while they were running the course. So we look at each post and highlighted clip of text bearing in mind what we were observing, and started coding data and any elements and see what kind of categories and relevant categories were emerging within the analysis of the online discussion. So three main categories started emerging. So people, content, and rhetorical roles. So these were the three main elements that we identified as a key indicator to describe what kind of learning process was going on in there. And then these main categories, around these main categories, we were particularly interested to identifying specific connections between categories that were aiming, first of all, to analyze who actually was sharing the content. So it was looking at the action of the users, what kind of post he has done and addressed to who. And therefore we focused our annotation process and information structure on these elements that at the end of the analysis could be mapped in this way. So in this map, you could see that the main categories and subcategories were people, rhetorical roles, and data. So mainly, these three elements, they were key to describing what was going on, and we could further define subcategories which actually explain which kind of rhetorical moves that the user were doing while interacting online and which kind of data they were sharing. So by looking at this graph, we could see in example that from the data we have seen that mainly people had two main way of sharing on the peer-to-peer learning sites. Either they were sharing content that we have called data, or they were sharing something that we define rhetorical moves. So they were having more informal conversation that were about the social aspect around the learning process. So when it was going to sharing content, this type of content, it could be further defined in three typologies. It was content sometimes about the course, so it was information on course activities, or it could be something outside the course, so related to link or giving resources that could useful for learners for further address the topics, of giving general info and knowledge they had in their self. So mainly data was coming from three sides: the personal knowledge of the learners and his background, the outside connection with the words and link to resources and information within and around the topic of the of the course. And at the same time, about when they were getting to discussion, we could notice that the main interaction between learners, they were either question-answering interactions. So they were mainly, when they didn't know something, they were looking for peers as a way to solve their practical problems. Or we identified other three ways of interaction, in particular opinion and complaint. So sometimes learners address the groups, especially when they want to complain about something. Or a specific kind of interaction is actually socialization. So sometimes the kind of interaction they had online, they were more like thanking each other, saying hello, nothing really relevant with the course itself, but which somehow was building bridges between the participant in the course. And then we identify a third typical type, which we call the reinforced concept and agreement, in which actually key users, they were identifying through the dialogue some key points they had in common. And this, when one learner was proposing one of these comments, this was following a certain answer that somehow were stating the agreement of the group on this common point. So these are more or less the results, but now I want to present another aspect of the Cohere tools, which is what actually it does in terms of sorting the data analysis. So we have, in the slide before, I have just showed all categories. But of course, the analyst, how these connect with the data and how we can proof test the hypotheses we have on these categories, digging into the data and seeing what these they are and trying to understand them. So sorting the data is a very key aspect of qualitative data analysis. And Cohere has a specific network approach to data sorting and visualization. So in this image here, we show you in example the results that Cohere does if you query the system focusing on a specific aspect. So imagine you, the group work we have analyzed was the pink group of Educator for Learning Peer-to-Peer U course. So if you focus on the pink group, then Cohere, it will give you back all the memos, all the notes, and all the codes you have done on the different bits of test, but represented in a way which make clear for the analyst how their code are associated to the data. So if we look at the icons of these nodes, we can see that each icon represents one main categories observed from the analyst, that we said they were people, content, and rhetorical moves. So we can see by looking at this picture that the four people has interacted into these online discussions.
That is from the first week.
Yeah, and then you can see by looking at the icons of these other nodes in the center of the representation, what kind of interaction they had, what did they share with the group. So did they raise a question? Did they make an answer? Did they make a complaint? And in this way, it gives visual hints on what the data really look like and provide an artifact through which the analyst can actually identify pattern within the data. In example, by looking at this picture, very basic consideration can be done on the number of participation, on the kind of more active and less active participants into the conversation. We can see that the first up 2 participants, they are much more active than the lower down. You can also do consideration of the different type of participation. Look, for example, the down right users. he has just given idea to the groups and notes, but he hasn't interacted really, neither socially nor for complaints. He hasn't raised question to the groups. It was like just providing answer and knowledge to the groups. While other users, like the top right, they look to be much more active. They raise question, answer, and also many complain. Do you see the red box here on the right left? So then other different kind of representation may be focused, for example, on connection between elements. So say I want just to see what are the relationship between my notes on the category people and my notes in the category poets and rhetorical moves. So the results that Cohere gives is a representation in which these connections are represented with putting the people at the center and all the kind of contribution around, as given around. So you can see how visually it's easy to make comparison between different learner behavior on the online environment, and therefore eventually discover pattern into the data itself. Finally, by coupling research on codes and research on the connection between memos, so say making question like give me back all the subcategories that identify complaints, and give me back all the relationship between people and post addressed to the group. So it will give you back a map like this, in which you actually filter out all the other memos and just focus on this visualization in which you can identify what are the learners who explain complaints. You can dig into the data and see what kind of complaints they had. It was about technology, it was about the learning content, it was about the people. And also you can, again, make some kind of reflection on the learner attitude on the platform. So again, we can see that the learner on the right had much more to complain about. And this is quite important for a tutor, while he may identify what are the learners which are more in need of help, and I'm trying to understand why and sort the problem out. So mainly we have proposed a method and a tool to support qualitative data analysis in virtual environment. And the results of our application show that Cohere is particularly meaningful, and it could be particularly useful when you want to do, for example, collaborative virtual ethnography. So what if you have more than one analyst that want to analyze the same data online, and so that the category they create can be shared all at the same times. So Cohere gives this possibility because it offered a shared online environment in which the analysts can share their codes and update them live. And then we have seen how by providing more sophisticated qualitative data analysis feature, like the ability to connect meaningfully and code the connection between memos, Cohere offers a new way to explore the results of qualitative data analysis. And finally, we proposed a new network paradigm for the exploration of qualitative data analysis. Okay, I'm not going to talk about this because my time is over.